Stealth camping is about camping while trying to remain undetected. In this video, I'm going to share some of the skills I gained as a sergeant instructor teaching cadets on how to find a location for your stealth camp and some practical tips on ways to conceal yourself while you're there. For a successful stealth camp, the first thing to do is to scout for locations, and I do this in advance. Now, I break this down into two phases. The first one is an initial planning stage, which I do at home using a map, and then the second stage, which is on-site scouting. Now, because my best place to start at home, let's go there now and we'll start that process off. Now, I'm looking for any area that's green, it's well away from a residential area, and ideally well away from a track marked on the map. Now, what I've found is most people are lazy, so if you can get about 1 kilometre away from a big residential town, it'll significantly reduce the amount of people that are out and about, and that's especially true during the late evening and the early morning, because strangely enough, most people don't want to be in a forest in the middle of the night. When I'm looking at the map, one of the things I'm looking for is either man-made or natural features which will channel people away from an area. So, for example, that could be a river, because people will tend to stay on one side of the river unless there's a bridge. It could be a sort of busy main road. It could be rough terrain or a hill which is difficult to climb. All of those things actually will really affect the amount of people that come to an area, probably more than you'd realise. Now, if you look at the little beige boundary here, this little beige shading, that means it's access land, which is land that I'm allowed to access. I'm allowed to go in here, I can wander around, and I don't have to stick to any paths. But what's really interesting about this is it's so hard to get to. So if you look to the north, we've got an A30, which is quite a busy road, and that's going to stop a lot of people coming to this way because there are no car parking spots up here. All you can do is kind of drive down this road, so it's very hard to access the land from that side. There is a nature reserve on the other side of the road, which this is connected to, but that A30 sort of dissects it and separates it, so you don't get much traffic coming from the other side of the nature reserve onto here because of that A30, which is a brilliant little feature. On the other side of the road, we've also got private land. So all of this dark green to the left, to below, and over to the right here, this is all private. So you're not going to get people wandering around here and accessing the land from this direction either. Now, a map will only give you an impression of an area, and it's really important to get on site and scout the area out in person, because you can really get the detail of what the area is like. And once you're in location, there's a couple of things you should look out for. Now, one of the things I'm always looking out for is litter, because litter tells us so much about an area. Now, if there's old campfires, beer bottles and beer cans, it's a good indication it's being used by local youths at night, where they're just sort of hanging around in the evening. So that area is probably best avoided. In this particular area, I found a load of litter from ration packs, which tells me the army is using the area. And actually, I know this because I saw them last week. But that's useful too, because I could quite easily pass myself off as a soldier. If I was to stick up a basher in the evening, if a local dog walker saw me sort of late evening or early morning, they'd just assume I was part of the army. So as long as I'm hidden out of sight, that's what they'd think. Another thing to look out for is unofficial paths, because you may have checked on the map and it looks pretty remote, the area, but when you get there, it's crisscrossed with unofficial footpaths, and they're quite often used by dog walkers and people just out walking and enjoying the place. So it's best to know where they are before you set up, because you could be sleeping right at the side of one. Another thing I'm looking for when I'm on site is little micro features which will channel people away from an area. This could be like a stream that's not on the map, or it could be as simple as a big pile of bramble bushes which kind of put people off from entering the area. And usually these areas are accessible. People just don't want to get prickled, so quite often that can give you a really good spot to shelter up for the night where no one's going to disturb you. Another thing I'm always looking for is natural cover. Now, the area behind me is quite flat and it's actually really good for camping, and it's a big open space, but it's completely screened from the path by sort of all the sort of ferns and the tree branches. So if you can choose a place like this where you're completely screened from view from a path, then you don't need to actually take too much time camouflaging your shelter, because people can't see it in the first place. Now, I've just come about 5 metres off the path and I found this little area here. Now, even just 5 metres in off a fairly main path, you can tell it's just not used very often. It's really quiet, there's no sign of litter at all, so this probably wouldn't be a bad place. Let's just come down and have a look and see what we can see down here. Okay, now there's like a little trail here, so this would get some traffic, particularly through dog walkers, but I imagine things like families and people out jogging, they wouldn't come this way. This would mainly be for dog walkers, I'm guessing. Now this little area looks quite interesting. It's quite dark in there, so you're going to be in shadow, and it looks like you won't be able to see it from any angle apart from this one. So let's just go in a little bit and see how concealed that'll be. Now this little area is probably ideal. If you can ever just spin around, you cannot see the path, you cannot see anything. I'm completely obscured from view. So if I was to set up a shelter here, I don't think anybody would see me. I am a little bit close to the path, so there is a chance that if a dog was coming through here, they'd smell me. But other than that, I'm completely obscured. So if you use the ground cover to your advantage, you don't need to worry too much about camouflage and breaking up your outline and all that kind of stuff, because people just can't see you if they can't see through the bushes. So this isn't a bad place at all. Now the area I'm in now, as you can tell, it's really thick bushes either side of me. So that discourages us from going left and it discourages us from going right. And what it tends to do is it just sort of makes people walk straight on and not worry too much about what's either side of them. So if there's something to the right, if I can get off this path, then there might be a good opportunity to find somewhere here. As you can see, just trees and bushes everywhere. It's definitely saying, just go straight ahead, don't worry too much about what's either side of you. Okay, now it opens out. But all of this area over there is behind me. So I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to look back and look to see what's over there. So let's go and have an explore and see what we can see. Okay. Now there's the faintest of trails here. It's probably more of an animal trail than a human trail, which is a good sign. There's probably not much use. And the ground's quite undulating. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to find some dead ground. Now I nearly just walked past the perfect spot. There's a bit of dead ground behind me on the right hand shoulder. I don't even know it's going to show up on the screen, but we'll go and take a closer look because this is ideal. It will actually hide us from 360 degrees and you could be in there with an orange tent and no one would see you from about 10 metres away. Let's go and have a look. Now if I look down there, that's a bit of a jackpot. There's a fairly substantial hole there. It's easily big enough to put a shelter up. The outline's broken up by heather, and that gives you 360 degrees cover from every direction. Not too near to a path, well off the beaten track. Nobody would find you there unless they're right on top of you. So I'm actually in this little hollow now, and as you can see, it's pretty much head height, so I'd easily get away with a decent sized shelter here. That looks really good. Let's see what it looks like from outside. Okay, so the nearest path is actually right in front of me now. So I'm going to simulate the view from the path of what we get here. So I'm walking along, start to head back into this little bit of dead ground now. Now this is me standing up in the dead ground. I don't know if you can see me, but I'm actually standing at full height. Now if I was just crouched down to my knees, I think I probably pretty much disappeared now. I'm not sure whether you'd see me at all. Now if I had a small shelter here, I don't think I'd get noticed here from any direction at all. And if I'm lying down, I'm probably completely invisible now from every direction. Now the camera's actually set probably about 5 meters from where I am. And I'm wearing a red t-shirt. It's a red t-shirt, I'm not camouflaged. Here I think no one would see me. This is a perfect spot, almost ideal. That particular one was a bit of an extreme example because it's a really deep hole. You can make use of little undulating features as well. So I'm going to show you a much more modest one now and just show how effective it could be if you had a low shelter. So set the camera up, it's about a head height and there's a little bit of dead ground behind me. It's not very deep at all, it's just a little bit of undulation in the ground. And what we're going to do is we're going to get into that cover and show you how effective it is for concealing yourself. Now I'll count my steps away so you can see exactly how far away I am. So I'll come up to the camera, right up now, turn around, I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, just so you can see me behind the tree. So this is me in the dead ground now. I'm going to lie down and I'll just show you how effective it is at concealing you. Now bear in mind this is from 11 paces, and this particular bit of dead ground gives me cover from that direction and that direction. And there's lots of kind of natural cover either side of me as well. There's a tree this side here, a fair bit of bushes that way, so I'll be pretty well hidden here. So let's just lie down. Okay, so now I'm lying on my back, I'm 11 paces away, I'm wearing a bright red t-shirt. Now another reason why I need to scout in advance and in person is because when you're looking for dead ground, you just don't see it until you're right on top of it. And to give you a good example of that, I've just found a much better location, and it's literally about 5-10 feet from where I was standing before, and I was in that location for about 15 minutes and I didn't even see it. So this is a great location. I could get a tent up here if I wanted to. So I'll turn the camera around and show you this new one that was just completely hidden from me until I was walking away. Just look at this. This is a lovely little hollow, and if I wanted to, I'll just come down into it. I could quite easily get a tent up there, but go down at ground level, maybe you can see it really well. Okay, so I'm in this other little location I've just spotted. So this is me on my knees now, just panning round, and as you can see, I'm just obscured from pretty much every direction. So this is dead ground at its finest. Look at that, and I was right over there. I didn't even spot this because it was just in dead ground. How funny is that? So hopefully that shows you that you don't need to look like a commando nutter in order to stealth camp successfully. If you use ground cover and dead ground, you can very easily hide yourself, even if you're wearing bright clothing. Obviously, I would recommend you wear dark coloured if possible. So it's all about blending in, and that blending in, it can be a case of blending into your natural environment as we are here, if I was wearing green, but also just thinking about all the people in the park and what they're wearing and blending in with the other humans so we don't stand out. Well, that's pretty thoughtful. I'm about 2 minutes from that location I was just at, where the dead ground was, and the army have left a couple of portaloos. With the weather as it is, finding that location and then a portaloo about 2 minutes away, I think that's nature's way of telling me it's time for a stealth camp. What do you reckon?